starting from the very first that says attacks, concepts, and techniques. This chapter covers the ways that cybersecurity professionals analyze what has happened after a cyber attack. It explains security software and hardware vulnerabilities and the different categories of security vulnerabilities, the different types of malicious software, and the symptoms of those malware we're going to discuss. We're going to discuss the different ways that the attackers can infiltrate a system, as well as the services that we offer. We're also going to look at the most modern cyber attacks. Most modern cyber attacks are considered to be blended attacks. So blended attacks use multiple techniques to infiltrate and attack a system. So in summary, today we are going to be identifying the different malwares that we have. We'll understand what they are, their target points, and how they behave, their behavioral characteristics, and we should be able to identify them. That is basically what we're going to be doing today. Now, how do you find security vulnerabilities? Security vulnerabilities are any kind of software or hardware defect. After gaining knowledge of a vulnerability, malicious users, when we say malicious, the concept of malicious is somebody who have a negative intention, someone who has an intention to cause mayhem or unpleasantries to you or a system. So when we talk about malicious softwares in this course, we're going to be looking at a set of applications that have been built by certain individuals with malicious intentions, with negative concept, negative intention. Okay, so an exploit is the term used to describe a program written to take advantage of your own vulnerability. So we have a system that has certain weaknesses. So an exploit is when somebody now builds this software in order to take advantage of your vulnerability. The act of using and exploiting against vulnerability is referred to as an attack. So somebody now builds a software that will take advantage of your weaknesses. That is an attack. So the goal of the attack basically is to gain access to a system, to gain access to the data or to record or to get information from its desired source. So the data is host or to a specific resource. So software vulnerabilities are usually introduced by maybe errors in the operating system or maybe errors in the application that you have installed on your system. Despite the effort, to block these errors, applications tend to update themselves by installing patch. Operating systems tend to request you to update yourself just so that you can get a patch. Now, these patches are just small bits of softwares or applications that are written in order to cover up the vulnerability of a particular application. So it is common for new vulnerabilities to surface every now and then. Microsoft, Apple, and other operating systems producers release patches and updates almost on a daily basis. And that is why it is very, very important to always have installed on your system or your mobile phone or any of your digital device a licensed operating system. Because most of these unlicensed applications do not have updates on patches. So the first set of vulnerability you tend to open up for your system is when your system does not have patches, either for the operating system or for the application that you have, either on your system or your mobile devices. So, hardware vulnerabilities are often introduced by hardware design flaws. RAM memories, for example, is essentially capacitors installed very close to one another. So it was discovered that due to proximity, constant charges applied to one of these capacitors could influence neighbor capacitors. So based on that design flaw, an exploit called Rowhammer was created. So you see, somebody now studied the vulnerability or the weakness that is designed in RAM and decide to create an application that will take advantage of this vulnerability. So, by repeatedly rewriting memory in the same database, the Rowhammer exploit allows data to be retrieved from nearby address memory cells, even if the cells are not protected. However, vulnerabilities are specific to device models and are not generally exploited through random comparison attempts. So, while hardware exploits are more common in highly targeted attacks, traditional malware protection and in physical securities are sufficient protection for the everyday user. So, the concept here is that you have a system. It could be a mobile device, it could be a desktop, it could be whatever device. And if you do not take certain precautions, especially understanding the fact that you have certain vulnerabilities, then you might just be a victim of a system attack. So, how
Can I
then
ask
do
a
we
simple question?
categorize these vulnerabilities? All right.
Can I
So
ask a simple
most
question?
software security vulnerabilities falls into the following categories. All right. The first one is buffer overflow. Buffer overflow. These vulnerabilities occur when data is written beyond the limits of the buffer. Buffers are memory areas allocated to an allocation. By changing data beyond the boundaries of a buffer, the application accesses memory allocated to other processes. This can lead to system crash or data compromise, or even provide escalation of privileges. So, that is buffer overflow. Then we have another category called the non-validated input. And the non-validated input are just programs that often work with data input. This data cap coming into the program could have malicious content designed to force the program to behave in an unintended way. Especially consider a program that receives an image for processing. And when it receives, it usually receives through input devices that we have on our system. So the input devices could be either your camera, your keyboard, your mouse, your scanner, whatever device that your system will take as input. So a malicious user could craft an image file with invalid image dimension. The maliciously crafted dimension could force the program to allocate buffers of incorrect and unexpected sizes. So you see, that is why it's called the non-validated input. Now, we have another category. It's called the race condition. The race condition. This vulnerability is when the output of an event depends on ordered or time outputs. The race condition becomes a source of vulnerability when the required order or time events do not occur in the correct order or proper timing. That is the race conditions. Now, another category is called the weaknesses in security practices. The weaknesses in security practices. So, under these categories, systems and sensitive data can be protected through techniques such as authentications, authorization, encryption, and mostly it's for organizations and companies and institutions that set these particular processes in order to safeguard or secure their system or their record. So developers should not attempt to create their own security algorithm because it will likely introduce vulnerability. So it is strongly advised that developers use security libraries that have already been created and tested and even verified. Now, the last one is called the access control problem. Access control is the process of controlling who does what and ranges from managing physical access to equipment to detecting who has access to a resource. So you see, access control problems and weaknesses in security problems are similar categories because they all have to do with policies and principles that organizations, institutions can set in order to help secure their applications, their data, and everything that is related to them, right? So many security vulnerabilities are created by the improper use of access control. So nearly all access controls and security practices can be overcome if the attacker has physical access to target equipment. So what are we saying here? We are saying that in most cases, most of these attacks that we get are highly preventable. But if we do not take caution, if we take serious caution, then we can prevent it. If we do not, then we will simply just fall victim. So this is the first class activity that we are going to do. Since we all have our pen, our paper, and we have written 1 to 23, so the first activity is going to be from number 1 to 5. Okay, so I'm going to read the description of a particular category, and then you will write the answer on your paper. Okay, you write the answer on your paper. At the end of it, we will find out what the answer is. So, for instance, which category is described by data coming into a program with malicious content designed to force the program to behave in an unintended way? Which category describes this? Is it access control problems? Is it race conditions? Is it weaknesses in security practices? Is it non-validated input, or is it overflow? So under number 1, just write the answer. Number 2, when developers attempt to create their own security application, what does it describe? What category falls under this action when developers attempt to create their own application? Is it access control problem? Is it race conditions, weaknesses in security practices, non-validated inputs, or is it buffer overflow? So you just write the answer in number 2. Number 3, when the output of an event depends on ordered or time outputs, which category does it describe? When the output of an event depends on ordered or time outputs, which category does that describe? Is it access control problems? Is it race conditions? Is it weaknesses in security practices? Is it non-validated input, or is it buffer overflow? Number 4, when a malicious application accesses memory allocated to other processes, What category is that? When a malicious application accesses memory allocated to other processes. What category is that? Is it access control problems, race conditions, weaknesses in security practices, non-validated inputs, and then buffer overflow? And then finally, incorrectly regulating who does what and what they can do with resources. Who does what and what they can do with resources. So we need to find out what category is this. Is it access control problems, race conditions, weaknesses in security practices, non-validated input, or buffer overflow? All right. So I am sure by now you have all written your answers from number 1 to 5. So let us find out what the correct answers are. Okay? Then we will mark it. Then be honest to yourself. If you fail, you mark wrong. If you got it right, you tick it correct. Okay? So the first one, we said data coming into a program with malicious content designed to force the program to behave in an unintended way. What category is that? So I think the answer is non-validated input. Okay. Anyway, we will mark it and then find out. Number 2, when developers when developers attempt to create their own security application. Which one is that? I think is weakness in security practices. Anyway, we'll find out. When the output of an event depends on ordered or timed outputs. Okay? When the output of an event depends on ordered or timed outputs. That one is what? Race condition. Number 4, when a malicious application accesses memory allocated to other processes. All right, which one is that? Obviously, is buffer overflow. Then finally, incorrectly regulating who does what and what they can do with resources. That one is what? Access control. So let's find out whether we're correct or not. Check your answer. Wow, we are correct. Okay, so you mark yourselves. If you have 5/5, just put it on your paper. At the end of the class, you will all put your answer. You will put your total score in the chat section. We will see those who have 23/23 or those who have 1/23. All right, so we're done with that. So we will have another one. Now we are going to now talk about types of malware. So you listen to this carefully because after this we will do another one. Types of malware. So sorts of malicious softwares. Malware is any code that can be used to steal data or bypass access control or cause harm to compromise any system. Okay, so it's a code, as in it's a software. It's an instruction that somebody has written down. Okay, that has the ability to steal, and that means collect data without the user's consent. Collect data or steal data, bypass access control, especially when it has been set by organization, or cause harm to or compromise a system. So we have different types of malwares. So let's see them and describe each one of them. The first one is called a spyware. So this malware is actually designed to track and spy on the user. The user could be a laptop, it could be a phone, it could be any device. So spyware often includes activity trackers keystroke collections and data captures in an attempt to overcome security measures. Spywares often modify security settings. So softwares often bundle itself with legitimate softwares or with Trojan horses. So sometimes you are browsing and you want to pay, you want to buy something online, and every time you are buying something online, somebody can put in a spyware on your system, and if the person notices what you are always buying or the site you're always buying, the next time you are trying to buy something, it will take note of your keystrokes as you press in your credit card number, as you press in your security key code or your password. It's going to collect those information and then mayhem. So basically, it's either going to track your keystroke, your movement digitally, or it's going to monitor your movement as you travel around. That is spyware. So spyware also work hand in hand with another malware called the adware. The adware. So malware, excuse me, spywares and adwares work hand in hand. So what is an adware? An advertising supported software is designed to automatically deliver advertisements. So adware is often installed with some versions of software. So some adwares are designed only to deliver advertisements, but it is also common to have adwares as what? Spywares. So you are going to a particular site, and while you are visiting the site, another advertisement just pops up. You didn't subscribe to it, but it just pops up. Open this link, and then it just pops up. And once it pops up, they are advertising their product. So those are adwares. But adwares, like I said, work with spyware. So somebody can set up an adware, and that adware can be a spyware. So most people that visit non-accredited websites or websites that are not secure, or especially want to make payments to sites that do not have HTTPS and things like that, you tend to fall victims for this kind of situation. So if you go to sites like pornographic sites, the more you click, you now see multiple windows are open. You have adwares, and then behind those adwares, you have spywares. Or when you go to sites you want to download either music or videos or pirated softwares, most of these kind of sites, you tend to have a lot of these adwares and spywares. Even some online shopping platforms that are not well secured tend to have this kind of challenge where they have spywares or adwares. All right. Then we have another type of malware is called the bot. So from the word robot, that is where we got this malware bot. So a bot is a malware designed to automatically perform actions, usually online. So while most bots are harmless, one increasing use of malicious bots are botnets. So several computers are infected with bots, which are programmed to quietly wait for commands provided by the attacker. So somebody is just going to set something like a crawler or an application, and it will send it to your system. And once it sends it to your system, um, uh, the person can activate it at any point in time. That can be activated at any point in time. And once it's activated, it can be told to do anything, either to fetch records from your system, or to increase your memory, or to crash your system, or to whatever it is that it has been designed to do. Like we said, from the word robot. Okay. Then we have another one called the ransomware. You see, this particular malware Well, in Nigeria, we know a lot of situations about kidnappers. When somebody kidnap another person and then deserve requesting for a ransom. So this is like somebody kidnapping your system or kidnapping your device. So a ransomware is a malware that is designed to hold a computer system or data it contains captive until payment is made. So usually ransomware works by encrypting data in the computer with a key unknown to the user. Even in 2019 and early this year, we have gotten reports of some students or some individuals who have been infected by ransomware. Sometimes you just see your system locked up and you cannot access the system until you just see an account number or an account name and number until you pay this particular amount. Or sometimes it's not even your system. Sometimes it's your online account. Maybe your Facebook account has been hijacked, or your Gmail or your email, whatever it is. It can be hijacked or attacked, and then you are required to pay. Or sometimes it might be some files that are on your system. You might be working on a particular project, and then somebody will now set in a ransomware and then lock that document. You cannot access it until you make payment. So that's a ransomware. Then we have another one called the scareware. So this type of malicious software is designed to persuade the user to take a specific action based on fear. So scareware forgets pops up windows that resembles operating system dialog windows. So these windows convey forged messages stating the system is at risk and you need to execute a particular program or execute a particular patch. If not, your system will have a problem. And by so doing, they are pushing you in order so that you can be able to install a particular patch that they have designed that it should be installed on your system. Sorry for that. Now, most carewords actually um, happen, especially when somebody wants to get maybe a financial information about you. And we have heard about people who claim to be from banks, uh, and they will tell you your record in the bank to be updated. You need to provide this information. If not, your account will be frozen. So they scare you. Now, this kind of activities happen also on the system. So it will tell you your system needs to be updated. If not, you will have this problem. The next one is the rootkit. This malware is designed to modify the operating system to create a backdoor. So you see, this rootkit actually is targeted at your operating system. And what is a backdoor? Is just another way the person can gain access to your system. So attackers then use the backdoor to access the computer remotely. So what rootkit takes advantage of software vulnerabilities to perform this particular activity. So rootkit is also another very serious malware that needs to be taken seriously, because in most cases, when you have serious attacks to big corporate organizations or big industries, it is because there is a backdoor that has been created by the attacker. Okay, so the next one we have is called a virus, and it is very common. The virus is very common because that's the most common name we hear. Virus, virus, virus. So, a virus is a malicious executable code that is attached to other executable files. So often legitimate programs. So most viruses require end user activation and can activate at a specific time or date. So viruses can be harmless and can simply display a picture, or they can be destructive, such as those that can modify or delete your data or your record. So those are viruses. So why we call them a virus is because of the way and manner in which they spread. They spread in a geometrical progression. So, for instance, they are spread through uh, external storage devices like hard drives, external drives, USB or flash drives, optical disc. They can be spread through network platforms, through emails, through so many points. So I can decide to have a virus downloaded into my system from the internet, and then somebody comes to copy a file or a movie from my system and puts his flash or USB device. The virus moves into that. As it moves into that, that particular person goes to copy it into his system. So the virus now moves to his system. Within his system, he decides to send a particular file to a group of users via email. And then the virus attaches itself and sends it. So it moves geometrically like that. That's a virus. And it's mostly attached to files, like your computer or your system. The operating system has certain files that helps it to run or to operate and function very well. So these viruses actually attack these particular files or attach themselves to these files so that they execute as the files are being executed. There is another malware that is called the Trojan horse. The Trojan horse. So a Trojan horse is a malware that carries out malicious operations under the guise of a desired operation. So for those of you who probably have read the book or watched the movie on the city of Troy, how it was destroyed, this Trojan horse was gotten from that particular concept. So what it actually does is that it is a malware that it is inside of something beautiful. So it is covered by something that is beautiful that you will not know. And for instance, a lady receives an email, and the email might read, hello, Jennifer. This is a secret admirer. I have been admiring you for the past 1 week, and I can see that you're a lovely lady. Please click here to view my details. Now, the lady does not know this gentleman, or she doesn't know who sent this mail. But because she is interested in finding out who her secret admirer is, she clicks the link. And once she clicks the link, then the main malware now installs itself in the system. Or maybe a gentleman, maybe Ahmed, can decide to get a mail. He will say, oh, Ahmed, you have won $1,000. Click here to claim your prize. Ahmed has not competed in any competition. He has not enrolled in anything that would warrant him winning. But because he needs $1,000, he decides to click the link. So the moment he clicks the link, it downloads the main thing into his system. So here, a Trojan horse hides itself inside of a particular application or platform. Then we have the worms. Worms are malicious code that replicate themselves by independently exploiting vulnerability in networks. So worms usually slow down network. My network is very slow. is because a worm has exploited the vulnerability within your network. And whereas a virus requires a host to run, worms can run by themselves. Other than initial infection, they no longer require user participation. So at a host is infected, after a host is infected, the worm is able to spread very quickly over the network. So worms share similar pattern. They have an enabling vulnerability, a way to propagate themselves, and they always contain a payload. So most people think that virus is the worst of the worst, not knowing that worms are even sometimes more deadlier, especially because of how fast they can move. All right. Now, we also have another one called man in the middle. Man in the middle. Or sometimes we call it MITM. So the MITM allows the attacker to take control over a device without the user's knowledge. So the user is using his device and all of a sudden he loses control of the device. So with that level of access, the attacker can intercept and capture any information that is before relaying it to the intended destination. So I am trying to transfer money uh, from my account. I'm trying to transfer money from my account to maybe Daniel Ayuba also. I want to send money, and then somebody decides to intercept it and redirect the money from the intended destination, maybe to maybe Grace or to another particular person. So the point of man in the middle is the interception and the redirection of this either financial information or activity. Then we have another one, man in the mobile. Man in the middle, MITM. Then we have man in the mobile, MITMO. So a variation of man in the middle. So the man in the mobile is a type of attack used to take control over a mobile device. So when infected, the mobile device can be instructed, to exfiltrate user sensitive information and send it to the attacker. That is what happens. So sometimes you might just be on your phone and all the contacts in your phone will be sent to another particular person, or all the messages in your phone will be sent to another person. So these are the types of the malwares that we have, but they all give us different symptoms. The symptoms are some of the behaviors that we see on our system that will begin to suspect if our system have been infected by any malware. So regardless of the type of maybe the malware you are using, the system have been infected. These are like the common symptoms that you are going to face. Number one, there would be an increase in the CPU usage. CPU usage is basically how your system is going to its usage. So, for instance, let me show you my CPU usage. Since I am using, just a moment. A moment.
Looks like we have lost connection, Ivy. Or is it only me?
So, um, right now you can see this is like the task manager of my system, and if I this is my CPU usage. All right, this is the CPU usage of my system. So if I want to see the performance, this is the CPU, the processor of my computer, and the CPU usage goes very high, especially when you are running certain types of processes. There are certain processes that consume a lot of processing power. So in that case, the CPU usage of your system will go high. But usually, once it go high, it comes down, not for long. So for instance, you will see the graph is changing. The graph is going up and down. So this means that my system CPU usage is normal, and it is based on the utilization. I'm running at 55%, 60% based on the utilization that I am running on my system. So once your system is infected with a malware, most cases your CPU usage will go to 9800, 9800, and it will not come down immediately. It will maintain this particular um, uh, uh, percentage for quite a while. Okay, it will maintain that particular percentage for quite a while, right? So that is about CPU usage. Now, the next one that we want to look at is there are there is decrease in the computer speed. All right. So definitely when your CPU usage is very high, anytime you click certain things, the speed at which your computer is going to process things is going to slow down, because your computer processor have been set to to be to be processing something else. Okay. Then the next symptoms is that the computer can freeze or even crash. All right. All of a sudden, your mouse is not responding, your keyboards are not responding, and anything you press is not responding. All right. That's another symptom. So, some also times is that there is a decrease in the web browsing speed. So you launch this browser, you click this site, it's slow to open. You change another browser, it goes the same way. So it's also a symptom. So there are unexplainable problems with network connections. You now begin to observe that your files have been modified. This is this file that you saved here. You discover that the name of the file has changed. The size of the file has changed. Some of the files are even deleted. When you begin to notice some of these symptoms, you know that your system is really, really infected. So, so there is a presence of unknown files or programs at the desktop. Some are deleted, some are being added, and things like that. So, with that kind of situation, you know that your system is also infected. So you begin to see unknown processes running on your system. For instance, let me show you my processes. Okay, so this is my processor, for instance. So if I click these processes, it's going to show me these are the processes that are running on my computer. These are the processes that are running, and each of these processes is taking a particular size of CPU, memory. For instance, I'm using Cisco WebEx, and Cisco WebEx taking like 14.6% of my CPU. This is the size of memory is taking, and things like that. Moderate. So I'm using Google Chrome, and in Google Chrome, I have 17 different tabs that I've opened, and this is what is taken. So all these processes are running from my computer currently. Now, once your computer is infected and begins to misbehave, this is one of the places you will check. So if you go through and you see certain programs or processes that you are very strange, unknown, that you do not know and understand, but yet they are consuming so much power in processing memory and disk processing, then you just have to know that your system is actually infected. The system is actually infected. So these are just the symptoms that you begin to feel. So programs are turning off, systems are rebooting, and email is being sent without the user's content. See, these are some symptoms that you begin to see. And that is why even on social media, on WhatsApp, for instance, we always advise that you set up a security code for your WhatsApp so that it cannot be hijacked. Somebody can hijack your WhatsApp profile and begin to send advertisements and things like that. And we see most of these adverts and we just click it. It says the MTN is giving 100 gig. This one is giving that. And then you click because you do, and you do not know the source. You just click and then you get yourself infected and your device is hijacked. So these are just the symptoms that you find. So it's time for us to do another class activity. So we have done number 1 to 5. So we're going to do from number 6 to 15. All right, from number 6 to 15. So I'm going to also describe the feature of the malware, and then you will identify the malware. Okay, so from number 6. So a malware designed to automatically perform actions, usually online. What malware is that? Is it the MITMO? Is it the bot? Is it virus, scareware, trojan, hardware, ransomware, worm, rootkit, or is it spyware? Next one is number 7. Malware designed to hold a computer system or the data it contains captive until payment is being made. What type of malware does that? Is it the MITMO, the boot, the virus, the scareware, the Trojan horse, hardware, ransomware, worm, rootkit, or is it the spyware? Okay. Next one is malware designed to modify the operating system to create a backdoor. What kind of malware does that? Targets the operating system specifically to create a backdoor. Is it MITMO, the bot, the virus, scareware, Trojan, hardware, ransomware, worm, rootkit, or spyware? Right? So you've all gotten that. The next one is um, often bonded with legitimate software. So this particular malware bonds with legitimate software, and this malware is designed to track a user's activity. What kind of malware is that? So you look through it and give us the answer. Next one, the malicious executable code that is attached to other executable files, often legitimate program. What kind of malware is that? Yeah, I'm sure you are all getting it right. Next one, malware that carries out malicious operations under the guise of a desired operation. What malware has these characteristics? Yeah, right? I'm sure you've gotten that. Next one is sometimes bonded with other softwares. This malware is designed to automatically deliver advertisements. What malware has this particular feature? Bonds with other softwares and deliver advertisements. Okay, right? I'm sure you've gotten that. The next one is malware used to take control over your mobile device. Which malware has that feature to take over mobile devices? Just write your answer. Then, next one, malware designed to persuade the user to take a specific action based on fear. what is the name of that malware based on fear, right? Then lastly,
Mhm.
the malware code that replicates itself by independently exploiting vulnerabilities in network. So you all have know that one, right? Okay, so I am sure by now everyone has written his answers. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to now solve the answer. So, malware designed to automatically perform actions, usually online. Which malware is that? It is bot. Now, malware designed to hold a computer system as ransom until payment is made. That one should be what? Ransomware. Yes, sir. Right? Malware designed to modify the operating system to create a what? Backdoor. That one is what? That one should be which one now? Let's see. Rootkits. Rootkit should be that one. Okay. Now let's see the next one. A malware that is often bonded with legitimate softwares. This malware is designed to track users' activity. Who are those that track users' activity that follow them without their knowing?
Firewalls.
So I think that
Virus.
is spyware.
Firewalls.
Okay.
Firewall.
And then the next one, what malware malicious executable code that is attached to other executable files. All right. So once you hear executable files, most of the times is what? Virus. Let's hope we're right.
It's virus. Yeah.
The next one is malwares that carries out malicious operations under the guise of a desired operation. So you see, once you see the
Trojan
guise,
horse.
you see we're talking about Trojan horse. Okay?
Trojan
The
horse.
next one is uh, malware that is sometimes bonded with other softwares. This malware is designed to automatically deliver advertisements. Advertisements, when you see advertisement, you think of what?
Hardware.
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 The next one is malware used to take control
Trojan horse.
over a mobile device. Mobile device
Bitmo.
Trojan horse.
That's Bitmo.
more. Okay. Then
Bitmo.
the malware designed to persuade the user to take a specific action based on fear. What is it that make people afraid? You scare people. So that should be
Um,
shareware. And finally, the malicious code that replicates itself, exploiting what? Network vulnerabilities. That one should be
Hardware.
a so
war. War.
let's find out our answer that
Hardware.
we are correct. Okay, so we are correct. So I want everybody to yourself. Mark yourself. The first one was over 5. This one now is
Cash.
over 10. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, this one is 10. So we have done 1 to 15.
Meet more.
Okay, so let's move on.
Meet more. Meet more.
The next one we are going to look at is social engineering. Social engineering.
Scareware. Scareware.
So, social
Scareware.
engineering is an access.
Scareware. Finally, it's warm.
Let's see.
It's warm.
Please, you can mute your mic. It will help us. You can just mute your mic. Thank you very much.
Warm.
All right. So, social engineering is an access attack that attempts to manipulate individuals into performing actions or divulging confidential information. Wow. So it is like somebody tricking you or playing on your intelligence to give him information that he or she wants without your knowledge. So social engineers often rely on people's willingness to be helpful, but also prey on people's weaknesses. For example, an attacker could call an authorized employee with an urgent problem that requires immediate network access. The attacker could appeal to the employee's, vanity, invoke authorizing using the name dropping techniques, or appeal to the employee to agree. All right. So these are just some types of social engineering attacks. One is the pretexting. So the pretexting is when an attacker calls an individual and lies to them in an attempt to gain access to privileged data. For instance, somebody can call, says, I am calling from CBN, or we need your BVN number so that we can process the money that the federal government is giving you. And then we need your card number and this and that. So the person is calling and is pretending to be who he is not. So that kind of social engineering is pretexting. Then we have what we call the tailgating. So this is when an attacker quickly follows an unauthorized person into a secure location. For instance, you have access to your server room or your data center or where your network devices are, and then somebody is just following you quietly, and then gains access to where he or she is not supposed to gain access. All right, that's called tailgating. Then the third one is called something for something. Quid pro quo. Something for something, or quid pro quo. This is when an attacker requests personal information from a party in exchange for something like a free gift. And that is what happens. Most of the times we do that online. You want to sign up for a particular program or a particular conference or a particular event, and then they tell you to now fill this particular information. So you want this, they want that. In filling the information, you are supposed to maybe select or read the privacy statement. But how many of us read the privacy statement? We don't. Or somebody calls another one and requests for certain information, and then in exchange for something. So the point of social engineering is that the attacker actually uses a skill in order to interact with you to get access to information or data or whatever it is that the attacker needs, you giving the person that information willingly without knowing that you are exposing yourself to danger. So that is social engineering. Now, this is a very common one, password cracking, Wi-Fi password cracking. So Wi-Fi password cracking is the process of discovering the password used to protect wireless network. So these are just some techniques that they use in cracking. So I go to one location and I see they have a Wi-Fi and I need to gain access into this their Wi-Fi, but it's passworded. So how do I get the password? And that's Wi-Fi cracking. So the first one is the social engineering. So the attacker can manipulate a person who knows the password into providing him the password. So that is why in most cases when somebody is giving, if you give one person a Wi-Fi password, just know that that Wi-Fi password will be replicated in multiple locations as the time goes on. And that's why it's really advised, if you have a Wi-Fi, always have a routine to change your password every now and then. The second way of cracking password is called the brute force attack. The brute force attack. The attacker tries several possible passwords, all right, in order to gain access. So maybe he sees the Wi-Fi, and maybe the Wi-Fi reads, let's say, how do we put it? Let's let's say NIPS. For instance, the Wi-Fi is for NIPS. So I see the SSID called NIPS. So I am going to use brute force. I don't know the password. Then I will begin to try different combinations. I will try NIPS. If it doesn't go, I'll try NIPS in capital letters. If it doesn't go, I will change capital N and I put small letters. If it doesn't go, I can maybe put NIPS 2020. If it doesn't go, I'll put NIPS this. So that is called the brute force attack. Okay, so you continue to try multiple times until you get a particular password. So sometimes we advise that if you have a Wi-Fi, in order to mitigate against the brute force attack, what you could do, you could set up a security measure that if somebody tries this password like 3 times unfailingly, you should block the MAC address of that particular device. So that can sometimes help with brute force. Then we have another one called the network sniffing. So by listening, capturing packets sent to the network, an attacker may be able to discover the password. So we have certain softwares, one of which is very common is called the Wiresharks. It's called the Wireshark. So I can just install a Wiresharks on my system, and then I will try to connect to that network, and then listen to whoever it is that is trying to connect to that network. So the person that is trying to connect to that network, the moment the person connects to that network, my application is going to now capture the password for me, and that is network sniffing. So network sniffing just has to with a tool or a software that you install. I might want to know the password to your Gmail or password to your email, rather, password to whatever it is you want to use, or even your account, the cards you use. All I need is just a network sniffer. And with the network sniffer, I will be able to achieve that which I want to achieve. Now, we have another one that is called phishing. Phishing is when a malicious party sends a fraudulent email disguised as being from a legitimate and trusted source. So the message intends to trick the recipient into installing a malware on their device or into sharing personal or financial information. That is phishing. So somebody just sent you an email and then you just read the email. Maybe it says that it's from your bank, and then you get the email from your bank, and then you have to provide certain information. Now, that is phishing. So, spear phishing is a highly targeted phishing attack. While phishing and spear phishing both use emails to reach the victims, spear phishing emails are customized to a specific person. The attacker researches the target's interest before sending the email. So anybody who is trying to attack you will actually have to take some time to find out who you are. So let's look at some vulnerability exploitation. But just look at this animation. For instance, an attacker, just types something on a web browser, and then what happens? Let me do that again. So, all right, so he types whois.net, and then the attacker now collects that information and then changes its destination and finds out whatever it is that particular person is trying to do. Okay, so exploring vulnerabilities is another common method of infiltration. Attackers will scan computers to gain information about them. Below are some of the methods used for exploiting vulnerabilities. Number one, gather information about the target system. Yes, so They will take their time and gather the information. So this could be done in many ways, such as port scanners or social engineering or whatever way, but they gather information to know your vulnerability. Step 2, one of the piece of relevant information learned in step 1 might be the operating system, its version, and a list of services running on it. So what we are saying here is that if I am having an operating system that is not licensed, that means I do not get updates often and on. So there are vulnerabilities that I have. So if I am an attacker and I say, okay, somebody is using Windows XP or Windows 7, then I will go and study the vulnerabilities of Windows 7 or Windows XP. So if this person does not have patches and updates, then whatever it is I've studied as vulnerabilities, I can use it to gain access into the person's system. Step 3, when the target operating system and versions is known, the attacker looks for any known vulnerability specific to that particular operating system. Okay? Then number 4, when the vulnerability is found, the attacker looks for a previously written exploit to use. All right, so let me find out if other people have attempted this particular technique, and then the person finds out, and then they get it. Then number 4, when the vulnerability is found, the attacker looks for a previously written exploit to use. If no exploit have been written, the attacker may consider writing an exploit. All right, so those are some of the things that they do. So now let's look at another type. It's called DOS attack. All right, we'll find out what DOS attack. This is just a small simulation. This person is going to keep sending a particular type of traffic, a ping traffic. He's sending it to this particular server. So while he's sending it, he's keeping this particular server very busy, so that it will deny him access to be able to respond to others. So you see that this particular system is trying to access this server for a legitimate activity, but the network is very slow. The website is very slow because this is the server that's supposed to provide it the information. The server is busy responding to the pings or responding to the traffic generated by this particular hacker. So you see, DOS attack basically is designed to deny other people access. It's called denial of service. Deny other people access to certain resources. All right, that is DOS attack. So denial of service attacks are, a type of attack that result in the disruption of the service or application. And how does it do that? By overwhelming the quantity of traffic that is sent to that particular system. All right. So this is when a network host or application is sent an enormous quantity of data at a rate which it cannot handle. All right. So that will keep him so busy. All right. Then we have maliciously formatted packets. This is when a maliciously formatted packet is sent to a host or application and the receiver is unable to handle it. So you see, in all essence, DOS is thinking of a way it can deny other people access to certain resources. So how about DDoS? DDoS is simply distributed denial of service. Now, let's look at what happens in this case. So you see, this particular attacker sends a particular attack to this particular system and this particular system. And the attack is sent is going to trigger this system to send continuous denial of service to this server. And then this system also to send continuous denial of service to this server. So what it means is that this particular hacker can hack probably thousands of other computers in the globe, and it will activate them to continue to send a particular type of traffic to a particular server. So that is why the attack is called distributed. It is not from only one source. It comes from different aspects. So the distributed denial of service is similar to the denial of service attack, but organized from multiple coordinated sources, as we see. So an attacker builds a network and infects hosts, all right? And those hosts are called what? Botnets. So the infected hosts are called zombies. So the zombies just generate the traffic. They don't know what they are doing. They are being controlled by the attacker that is somewhere. Then the third one is called SEO poisoning. What is SEO? SEO stands for search engine. All right? Search engine, such as Google, they work by ranking pages and presenting relevant results based on users' search queries. So every time we go to Google, we go to Yahoo or any of those search engines, we make certain search and then we get all these queries. So depending on the relevancy of the website content, it may appear higher or lower. So if I type a particular engine, for instance, I can come, for instance, and go to Google. I go to google.com, and then I want to search for a tool. Let me say, for instance, COVID-19. All right. Now, once I press enter, Google is going to give me this result, and is giving me this result in a particular order. All right, it's giving me in a particular order, and the order is based on the relevancy of my chat of my search. All right, so the search engine is going to give me based on the relevance. So in most cases, when we go to search engines and we search, the first links we most open are the first 3 or the first 5 links. We don't usually go to maybe the next. There are multiple pages. You see, there are like 1 to like 10 and more. But we hardly come down here or we click number 2 or number 3. We hardly do that. We only come to the first one and then we click. We can say education in Nigeria. If I'm looking for this information, for instance, you see, Google is going to feed me with this information in a particular hierarchical order based on the relevancy of my search. But there are other search pages. In most cases, people do not use it. So the SEO poisoning is just a query that alters that particular hierarchical order so that they will put in their own sites for you to see instead of the relevancy of your search. So depending on the relevancy of the web content, it may like appear higher or lower in the search result list. So while many legitimate companies specialize in optimizing websites for this poisoning, a malicious user could use the SEO to make a malicious website appear higher in search results than other sites. So that is SEO. So it's time for us to do the last activity. Last activity, get your pen and paper. So I am going to now describe the particular activity. Then you will let us know whether it is denial of service or distributed denial of service or SEO poisoning. So the first one is relatively simple to conduct even by an unskilled attacker. Which one is this one? Is it denial of service, DDoS, or SEO? So just write the answer, number 16. Just write the answer. Next one is originates from multiple coordinated sources. Originates from multiple coordinated sources. Is that DOS, DDoS, or SEO poisoning? Just write the answer.
That's the
The next one is zombies are controlled by handler systems. Zombies are controlled by handler systems. Which one is that? Is it DOS, DDoS, or SE poison?
DDoS.
Next one is when a maliciously formatted packet is sent to a host or application and the receiver is unable to handle it. Which one is that? DOS, DDoS, or SE poison? Then the next one, make a malicious software website appear higher in search results. Is that DOS, DDoS, or SEO poisoning? The next one is increase traffic to malicious sites that may host malware or perform social engineering. What is that describing? DOS, DDoS, or SE poisoning? Then next one, attacker builds a network of infected hosts called botnets. So who does that? So you let us know. Then finally, when a network host or application is sent an erroneous quantity of data at a rate which it cannot handle. Which one is that? So, you write your answer and let us check whether we are right or we are wrong. So let's get our answers. Relatively simple to be conducted by even an unskilled hacker. So I think that one is DOS. Okay. Anyway, we'll find out whether we're right or wrong. Originates from multiple coordinated sources. Okay. That means the attack comes from multiple sources. So that one, I think it should be DOS. Okay. Then zombies are controlled by handler systems. That is DOS. Then when a maliciously formatted packet is sent to a host or application
Yes.
and the receiver is unable to handle it. Okay, when a maliciously formatted packet is sent to a host or application and the receiver is unable to handle it, which one is that? That SEO or is it DOS? Anyway, we'll find out. I'm not even sure. Makes a malicious website appear higher in search results. Okay, that I'm sure is SEO. And then increase traffic to malicious sites. Okay, that 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 may host malware, may perform social engineering. Okay, I think it's well. Hopefully, are we correct? Okay, let's see. Attacker builds a network of infected hosts called
All the botnets.
botnets. So,
DOS.
which one is that? That
DDoS.
DOS. Okay.
DDoS.
Botnets. When a network host or application is sent an erroneous quantity of data at a rate it cannot handle. Which one is that? That's DOS, right?
DOS, yeah.
Well, let's hope that we are right. Let's check. Okay, we are right in some and we are wrong in some. So this one, zombies are controlled by systems. So I think that one should be DDoS.
DDoS.
And then let's even check. Correct. So we're right there. Then this one, when a maliciously formatted packet is sent to other host application and the receiver is unable to handle it, I think that should be DOS. Well, I don't know. Let's check. All right, all right. Then this one, increase traffic to malicious sites. So I think that
SES.
is
SEO.
SEO. All right. So I think this. So this is our answers. So I want you to mark yourself and let's know what you have gotten right. So once you finish marking yourself, I think it should be a total of 23, if I'm not mistaken. So you write on your script how many points you got out of 23, and then you begin to put it on the chat group. I want you to put it on the chat group. You put your points in the chat group. We will say it. All right. Now, the last part of this course, we're looking at a blended attack. What is a blended attack? Blended attacks are attacks that use multiple techniques to compromise a target. So by using several different attack techniques at once. So attackers have malware that are a hybrid of worms, so Trojan horses, spywares. So when somebody uses most of these, more than one particular malware, and puts it in a coordinated way in order to get whatever he wants to get, that is a blended attack. How about impact reduction? So while the majority of successful companies today are aware of common security issues and put considerable effort towards preventing them, not no set of security practices is actually 100% efficient. Right? So because a breach is likely to happen if the price is big. So there is no one way you can be 100% sure to say you are foolproof. It is just that you are reducing the impact of the attack that you might get. So below are some of the measures a company should take when a security breach is identified. So number one, you communicate the issue. That's internally, employees should be informed of the problem and the call to action so that they will be prepared. The second thing is to be sincere and accountable in case of the company is at fault. So instead of us going for the blame game, if an attack has happened, it is good to be sincere. The next thing is to provide details. All right, to provide details and explain why the situation took place. All right, and what was actually compromised. Then you should also understand what caused the facilitated the breach. All right. So these are just steps that we can use in our organizations, in our companies that can help. We need to also apply what was learned from the forensic investigation to ensure similar breaches does not happen in the future. And then we should ensure all systems are clean. Install legitimate operating systems, install antiviruses, update your systems every now and then. And then, very, very important, you update and educate your employees and partners of being security conscious. So that is the end of chapter 2. So in summary, this chapter covered ways that the cybersecurity professionals can analyze what has happened after a cyber attack. And it also explains the security softwares and hardware vulnerabilities and the different categories of security vulnerabilities. We have seen them. We have also seen the different types of malicious softwares, and we have seen how they behave, their various behaviors. We have also seen the different ways that attackers can infiltrate a particular system, and we talked about social engineering as one. We talked about Wi-Fi password cracking as two. We have talked about phishing as three. We have talked about vulnerability exploitation as four, and we have talked about denial of service and distributed denial of service and even SEO poisoning. We have talked about all those things. We have also talked about blended attacks, how attackers can use various malware tools in order to get what they want. All right. So this is the end of chapter 2 that we have looked at. So for I don't know whether we still have time. If not, I would have said we'll just check. We'll check. What do we call it? The fees. Some persons were complaining that they don't know how to check the fees. So let me just